Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to another installment of On a Couch Talking Sports. As always, I'm Robbie, joined by Kyle. Kyle, how are you tonight, buddy?
I'm doing pretty well, actually. Yeah, not too bad. Just chilling. Just another Monday.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, the start of another week, but with all these weeks blending together, as always, you're really not sure what's going on. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we are continuing with our sort of theme trend of episodes that we've been doing here over the past few weeks, and that's sort of looking back at past teams, whether they be sort of more the personal aspect, like we did the last few episodes of Wellesley High football, or taking a bit more of a professional approach with Red Sox, Patriots, Bruins, Celtics. So tonight what we wanted to do is we actually wanted to take a look at the college level and a team that was very recent, and actually a team that Kyle and I had the chance to witness in person on multiple occasions this season, and that was the 2019-20 Boston College men's ice hockey team, who, unfortunately saw their season come to a premature end, obviously with the conference and NCAA tournaments being canceled due to COVID-19. But this was an Eagle team, like I said, that had just a superb 2019-20 season. They finished 24-8-2 overall. They finished in first place in Hockey East, and they finished ranked fourth nationally. So what I kind of wanted to do for this team, Kyle, since we were able to witness them multiple times, I should say, in person, is I kind of wanted to go back and reflect on those sort of specific games and sort of what we saw out of them, because that can sort of serve as sort of a microcosm for the entire season. And so the first game, I should say, that we went to was the Bean Pie semifinals against BU, a game that we obviously recapped back for a previous episode a few months ago, and a game that unfortunately was won by BU in double overtime by I believe it was 5-4. Yeah, it was 5-4. And so, I just kind of wanted to ask you, just obviously we've recapped the game itself. So, but what I kind of wanted to ask you is sort of what you saw out of BC specifically, that in terms of their play, in terms of just what, again, like I said, just sort of what you witnessed, from that first instance of seeing them this season, what you witnessed out of the team that night.
Well, if I remember correctly, they actually did really well the first two periods. I thought they actually had the lead.
Yeah,
If I remember correctly, right? The first two periods.
3-1. Yeah, they were up 3-1 in the third.
Yeah, they played really well. I could definitely see a lot of potential just from that game alone. And yeah, even though they had lost in overtime, I mean, it took them till double overtime. That's pretty big in hockey. You don't see that every day.
No, you
So,
really don't. No, you really don't.
yeah, no, just overall, you could tell that these guys really brought their A game on the ice. Win or lose, they had a lot of talent. So
Yeah, definitely. And like Kyle said, they were up 3-1 in the third period. Then BU came back and actually took the lead 4-3 late in the third, but then BC scored to tie it at 4 and ended up, like I said, forcing overtime, in which BU won. And obviously, the Bean Pie, as we've talked about many times, Kyle, just a very special tournament. A very special tournament, one that is always fun to attend, no matter what game you see. And obviously, we've had the occasion to go the last couple of years, and have had a lot of fun in doing so. And obviously, that combined with the BC-BU rivalry is something that is always fun to witness.
oh yeah, oh my God, it's It's, I mean, going to Beanpot, that particular game was just, you're right, like you said, it was very special in that, you get to experience the game at the Garden, at TD Garden, which is a fantastic venue for hockey and basketball, as we know. Um, and just, you're right, just seeing that whole rivalry play out is just very amusing when you're just kind of sitting there from an audience perspective, just kind of seeing everyone, like, everyone's got their chants left and right. The pep bands are both like playing really epic songs. Both bands from their respective schools they're incredible. I love hearing what they have to play too. So it's just a really fun experience. It's you don't get many hockey games like that, especially with that kind of rivalry there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And speaking of sort of rivalry games, the other game that we went to this season was a BC home game later on in February against another pretty big rival, Northeastern, and that game was certainly one for the record books, as it was very one-sided with BC winning. I think it was 9-1 or what, I forget exactly what it was, but it was definitely quite the lopsided affair for BC. And so I guess, Kyle, sort of comparing, those two games sort of weeks apart, what sort of similarities did you see out of BC, in the Northeastern game compared to the BU game, and also just what differences did you see out of BC in a game that just a couple weeks later, but still a much different outcome.
Yeah, with the you're right. Like with it being one-sided, they really laid into Northeastern there. They just kept scoring goal after goal. I don't think I've seen that many goals in a hockey game in like forever. So yeah, that's another game. I mean, both games obviously you could tell they really worked hard, but in the one with BU, they definitely struggled kind of towards the end. I want to say like the third period, it was kind of hard to keep up because they had such an explosive first two periods of that game. Whereas this game, they were just like all three periods, they were just bam, bam, just like shooting them in there. So yeah, they kind of had a different momentum in this one, but so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt. I mean, it was definitely, both games were fun to watch for their own sort of reasons, and it was, like I said, quite the Northeastern game on a number of different levels was quite the experience, especially given that we were sitting right in front of the Northeastern student section, and that was interesting in and of itself. But yeah, as we went over when we recapped that particular game. So, Kyle, the last thing I kind of wanted to ask you about this BC hockey season is it's kind of an interesting sort of thing. Obviously, like I said, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, the BC hockey season, was cut short. They were not able to play, their conference tournament or the NCAA tournament. So I kind of wanted to ask you a two-part question. One is sort of more, I want you and I to sort of play prognosticator here. And the first part of the question has to do with the conference tournament. It's actually, you're going to see why I'm asking you this in a second.
Okay.
But I want to specifically look at the first round series, because if the conference playoffs had gone off normally, BC would have actually been hosting Providence in the conference quarterfinals. And I know that you and your family have a specific connection to Providence, as we've talked about before. So I guess what I want to ask you in terms of the conference, looking at, just looking at BC, as you saw them those two games, how do you think they would have fared against an 8th-seeded Providence team as the top seed? But also, how do you think they would have fared, in the conference tournament as a whole if it had actually, been played?
I mean, it sounds like they had a pretty solid season overall. So I think they would have gotten at least pretty far. But I will say this, I know Providence calls, and I'm not trying to be biased here. My sister did go there, for those of you who don't know. But Providence College also has a very, very good hockey team, and they've definitely that's one that's gotten a lot better over the years, I think. And I don't know, it would have been a really, really tight game. I think it would have definitely been closer to what happened with the BU BC game. So actually, that would have been a game I think that I probably would have gone to just for fun, just to kind of check it out. Was it supposed to be in Providence, or was it supposed to be in?
It was going to be. It was a best. It would have been a best of three quarterfinal series, and the games would have been actually at BC. All the games would have been hosted at BC because BC, top seed versus the 8 seed. So obviously they would have had a home ice advantage there.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh man, that would have been wow. Even less of a drive than I would have thought. So that's pretty good in that regard. If we were able to go.
Yeah, I think that I think it would have been an interesting series to watch because you're right. Providence, even though they're a bit of a lower seed, Providence is always a very talented team and a very tough team to beat. Either at home or on the road. So I think. Obviously I'm sort of biased towards BC, but I think BC would have, had a really legitimate chance of winning the Hockey East Conference tournament. Had it been played, I just think the way they were playing, I think, they would have been certainly the favorite. But I think it would have been a very tough road because the Hockey East is one of the best college hockey conferences in the country, and so you never know what you're going to get game in and game out, and so I think it would have been something something to witness come if it had actually gone that far. And I think sort of the part two now, Kyle, is obviously, everybody in the college level looks at the NCAA tournament, and obviously, it had been a few years since BC had made the NCAA tournament in hockey, and it was looking like they were again sort of shaping up to have a pretty good run, pretty good chance to maybe compete for a national championship. So I just, again, from what you saw and witnessed, sort of what prognostications would you make about BC's chances had they played in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, no, I think they would have. I think they would have made it really far at the very least. You're right, because they had shown a lot of promise. They had a really just an overall really good momentum. I think they really. I think they had a really good chance of winning. I'm not always great at making like hockey predictions, but yeah, I think they at the very least could have gone really far. If not, they probably could have won it too. Even though you're right, like they did have a lot of tough teams to kind of face in actually both both settings there. But I think they would have made it at the very least pretty far. So.
Yeah, Kyle claims he's not good at picking hockey series, except for the fact that he nailed the Bruins Canadiens playoff prediction a few years back. So
that was the luckiest guess of all time, Robbie.
But yeah, I agree with you. I think they would have had a very good chance of winning at least their regional, if not winning the whole thing, because they probably would have been pretty high up there seed wise, and I think it would have been really fun to watch. Like with all these tournaments, it was unfortunate that it was not able to happen, and I feel for the seniors on the team. But at the same time, at this point, all we could do is sort of look forward to next year and hope that they have an even better year in 2020, 2021.
Actually, I had a quick question about that.
Yes.
Just kind of a general question about, I guess, college hockey.
Of course.
I figured you know this more than I would do. Now, since the season being canceled, does that mean does anyone get any award of any kind, or do they just kind of like let the season go and wait till next year? How do they do that usually?
Well, obviously, in terms of the conference, BC kind of won the award, so to speak, because they won the regular season Hockey East Championship. But in terms of, NCAA tournament, just kind of, unfortunately, there's just no winners, and you just move on to next year, unfortunately. But yeah, it would have been fun, like I said, to see how far they would have gone in a perfect world. So
Yeah.
so I kind of want to sort of switch gears here and move on to sort of the final segment of our show, and I'm going to start with my final thought. And my final thought is going to be kind of non-sports related, really, tonight, but I think it's important, and it's just sort of discussing what has been going on these last few days and the last week, really, in this country, with obviously the protests going on over the tragic death of George Floyd at the hands of police officers. And it's tough because we kind of sit back here, and I know I'm the first one to admit that I am sort of in my own, I'm kind of in a privileged bubble, if you want to call it that, because I'm sitting here in Wellesley, where things are great and calm, and other than the pandemic, really peaceful and all of that, and just sort of not immune, but just sort of separate from what's going on even in the city of Boston, but in plenty of other cities across this country. And it's a very scary time on a number of levels. And I think that my overall point here is that the message that is being pushed by the protesters is an extremely important one, and is very necessary because this country, as much as we hate to admit it, still to this day, even in 2020, has a huge problem with racism and race relations and police behavior against minorities and all these different things. And I think it's a really positive thing when people are sort of able to get together and peacefully, sort of exercise their right to assemble and really, get their cause out there. I will say this, is that the actions of a few sort of, rioters or looters or whatever you want to call them, people that are, kind of inciting violence during some of these rallies, should not take away from the overall message of what these people are trying to accomplish. The actions of a few should not ruin the many. And so I just hope everybody, kind of like with the pandemic, and stay safe, and just I think it's a really positive thing that people are standing up and making their voice heard, which is what our country is kind of built on. And like I said, I just hope that everybody stays safe out there. I think is what I really am trying to say in no uncertain terms. So like I said, I hate to get too political because we're kind of a lighthearted show here, but I just thought it was important, especially given the absence of stuff to talk about sports wise right now. I think it's just important, to just kind of mention my piece on that. Just sort of, like I said, given what's going on. So anyway,
well said, dude. No, I agree. It's just,
yeah.
You're right. It's hard times we're in, and you're right. Everyone, like, yeah. mean, you said it best. So, yeah.
Now, speaking of lighthearted segments on the show, I'm now going to turn it over to my friend here, Mr. Kyle, who is going to give his Sue's reviews of the week. Wow, I just completely butchered that segue. But anyway, Kyle, take it away. What do you got for us this week?
All right. So I know definitely very. I wanted to talk about a really cool. This is a piece. This is an artifact from the '90s. This is what's called a Super Game Boy. I don't know if you guys ever grown up have had one of these. So this is a little cartridge that you can put, well, actually kind of a big cartridge you can put in your Super Nintendo. And it looks like a Super Nintendo cartridge, but what it really is meant to do has a little slot here that you can see. You can actually play Game Boy games in it. So for example, like I got this game right here, Star Wars, hold on, geez, I can't even, okay, there we go. Star Wars Return of the Jedi. And all you gotta do is just put it right in here. It's like it's still a little Game Boy slot, and you put this thing in the console, and you can actually play pretty much any Game Boy game on your TV. It doesn't work with Game Boy Advanced, which is like the newer version of these. It doesn't work with Game Boy Color either, but just any like typical standard Game Boy cartridges, it works really well. You can even, when you put the games in, change the color palettes. You can keep it black and white, like when you play on the original Game Boy, or they do have a variety of different preset colors when you play the game. So it's pretty cool. It's a as old as this thing is, from the early '90s, it still had some pretty cool functions. I think it's a really cool thing to have, just if you want to play any Game Boy on the big screen. Mind you, you might need a newer TV, or you might need an older TV for this to work. So it won't quite as well work on if you have any flat screens. But definitely check it out. Super Game Boy. If you can find it at either on, I'd say probably best bet eBay, or maybe when the old school video game shops, the mom and pop shops open up, you can get one there. So I mean, these don't go by a lot. Usually, I'd say maybe $10 or so. You can get one. $10-15. It's not too bad, so it's not going to ruin your wallet. So definitely check it out. I think that's it for that.
Cool. Definitely a nice little throwback there. So leave it to Kyle to give us throwbacks, the classics, all that fun stuff. But thanks, Kyle, as always, for that lovely edition of the Sue's Reviews. And so that is going to wrap it up for this week's edition of On a Couch Talking Sports. As always, I want to thank everybody for joining us out there. And as always, stay safe, everybody. And for Kyle, I'm Robbie. I'm trying to point at you, but I pointed too low. There we go. For Kyle, I'm Robbie. Hold on, let me sit up. There we go. I'm Robbie, and this is On a Couch Talking Sports. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you next time. Bye.